And welcome to the New World Order.
Good evening. President Obama and the other national leaders of the G20 summit have wrapped up their meetings in London. We'll tell you what they have to show for the time they spent together, and we'll cut through the hype largely driven by the summit's host, British Prime Minister Gordon Brown. Let's turn now to the G20 summit in London. President Obama calling the meeting a turning point. And the summit's host, British Prime Minister Gordon Brown, said he sees the emergence of a new world order. The G20 leaders produced a communique at the end that offers few details and specifics and little more than pledges. But a lot of pledges. Pledges of $1 trillion for the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Pledges to be better regulators and pledges not to be protectionist. Ed Henry is with the president and reports now from London.
Striding into an overflow room of reporters from around the world, President Obama declared his first summit a success, even though he didn't get all he wanted.
We finished a very productive summit that will be, I believe, a turning point in our pursuit of global economic recovery. It was historic because of the size and the scope of the challenges that we face, and because of the timeliness and magnitude of our response.
The magnitude, $1.1 trillion the G20 leaders agreed to pump into the global economy, which Mr. Obama was pushing over the objections of French President Nicolas Sarkozy and German Chancellor Angela Merkel. But it's directed to the International Monetary Fund to help developing countries, so it may not have the stimulative effect the president wanted.
I think we did okay.
Mr. Obama suggested expectations were too high, noting it was easier to find consensus at summits led by British and American leaders in decades past.
Well, if it's just Roosevelt and Churchill sitting in a room with a brandy, that's an easier negotiation. But that's not the world we live in.
Also a mixed bag on financial oversight, with Mr. Obama stopping the French president's demand for a powerful new overarching financial regulatory body. Instead, the leaders agreed to establish a new financial stability board as an early warning sign for future crises. But it has little teeth to actually crack down on risky investments like hedge funds.
I think the steps in the communique were necessary. Whether they're sufficient, we've got to wait and see. This group, once again, will respond as needed.
This group gets another chance to respond this September in New York. But it's important to remember its last meeting was 5 months ago in Washington, and the crisis has only gotten worse ever since. So it's not clear that today's actions will stop this global recession. Ed Henry, CNN, London.
And to put the G20 pledges of $1 trillion to save the world economy in perspective, the United States itself is spending $13 trillion of your money to support the $14 trillion American economy. British Prime Minister Brown today declared a new world order is emerging. We want to know what you think, so our poll question is, are you excited that a new world order is emerging, or are you concerned about America's sovereignty? Cast your vote at LouDobbs.com. We'll have the results here later. 93% of you say you are concerned about America's sovereignty.
Implantable human chips. Supporters hail the technology as a medical marvel, but critics warn that the potential risks are real. One such detractor is Catherine Albrecht. She's author of Spy Chips. Yesterday on Squawk Box, she blasted the device maker Verichip, citing FDA comments.
Well, they talked about, for example, electrical hazards. This thing is by no means inert. The way it works is it actually picks up and amplifies ambient electromagnetic energy from the reader devices. And if you have one of these things in your arm and you get within range of a powerful electromagnetic field, it can actually burn you.
Joining us now to make his case is Scott Silverman. He's chairman and CEO of Applied Digital Solutions. That's the parent company of Verichip. And Mr. Silverman, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. We're looking at this little chip right here. You brought some in with us, tiny little things. But what we heard yesterday was kind of scary. How do you react to that?
Well, Becky, thanks for having us back on the air. We appreciate that very much. And obviously the comments that were made yesterday is the reason that I'm sitting here today. As you know, VeriChip has been approved by the FDA as a Class II medical device in order to identify high-risk patients in an emergency situation. It's elective, it's voluntary, and it is certainly critical to the evolution of information technology in healthcare, which we all know is archaic, the way healthcare is done today in emergency rooms and physicians' offices. So we look to be a small part of that, and we wanted to correct inaccurate statements that were made yesterday, and more importantly, talk about the VeriChip technology.
What's inaccurate? And what was
well, there were two
yesterday?
things that were discussed yesterday on the air. The first was passing through a smart pass on the highway and having a VeriChip in your arm and being able to be read by the technology. This is not a location device. This is a passive device that cannot be read in that atmosphere, in the smart pass atmosphere. The second thing is MRI compatibility. When any new medical device is approved by the FDA, obviously they're going to list certain risk factors. That was one of the risk factors they listed, and as a result of that, we commissioned the University of Minnesota to do a study which has been submitted to the FDA that declares VeriChip to be MRI compatible.
Oh, go ahead.
You have one in your arm right now.
That's correct.
Where is it?
It's in the upper right arm. It's a simple injection process, just like getting a shot of penicillin.
Is it painful?
Not at all. They numb the area slightly. You don't feel it. They put a Band-Aid on it. Within 2 days, you don't even know it's there.
And can we, I don't know, did you get a good shot of this, Peter, the chip? I don't know how tight you can get on it, but these are small, and you've got a scanner with you right now.
That's correct.
Right?
This is the passive scanner that awakens our proprietary chip. It is not an active RFID tag that they have in retail environments where the technology is used for the benefit of the retailer. This is used for the benefit of a patient, a high-risk patient, being brought into an emergency room.
Okay, that's what you plan to use it for, but is there a way that it could ever be twisted or turned or somebody else could get aware? It's not the chip itself that turns it on, it's the reader.
That's right. The chip itself, Becky, as you know, has a unique 16-digit identifier. Even if I have one of these readers, even if I'm a bad guy that has one of these readers, and I scan your arm, all I'm going to get is a 16-digit identification number. The relevant information is stored on the database, and you as the patient control the access to that database. So all you see you getting here is a 16-digit identifier, and the database information is really where the medical records are stored, and you as the patient have control over that database. You allow what group of affiliates, such as emergency rooms, that you want to have access to that database. So control is at the root of privacy. We have a very large privacy policy. I dare to say that we're leaders in the RFID industry when it comes to that. And that's why the remarks yesterday bothered us and why I wanted to be here today.
You know, the critics would say, and I listened to it, and I'm trying to figure it out, but they use the they word a lot. Is there a vast RFID conspiracy out there that is they would say this is a slippery slope. This is the first thing. This is where you lull us into a false sense of security. We all get these things. And then the next thing, you know, I don't know.
They're
it's
making
like
Soylent Green.
Like the Trilateral Commission, or the whole world gets taken over, like in Terminator 3 or something. Is anything? I mean, do we need to worry?
There's no conspiracy, Joe.
You sure?
I'm sure.
I'm looking at you.
I'm looking
at your eyebrow. It twitches when you say that a little bit.
And I'm looking back at you.
Come off?
Let me say this. Let me say this. As far as the RFID industry is concerned, I and a couple other CEOs in the industry a couple years ago started a pretty large cry for working with the privacy rights groups and making sure that all these things are addressed. And I think we've done a pretty good job over the last 2 years of doing that. However, we need to distinguish our technology from the active RFID technology that Ms. Albrecht and others are worried about with this being able to track people. Well, this is a passive device that does not track
Tommy
people.
Thompson wants a system in every hospital now before he gets one in his arm. So if you were counting on him, I don't know if that's going to happen like this year.
Well, actually, obviously, Secretary Thompson, it's an honor to have him on our board of directors. And as he stated all along, when the infrastructure is in place, he will get a chip.
That could be 2050.
Let me finish. We now have over 60 hospitals that have agreed to implement the system, so that time is nearing.
Only 2 now, right?
And I spoke with Secretary Thompson yesterday, and we believe it's in the very near future that he will get a chip and then appear on your show to talk.
All right.
Excellent. We'll bring him back when that happens. Mr. Silverman, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Scott Silverman, again, is the chairman and CEO of Applied Digital Solutions.
I'm Monica Novotny at the satellite desk with what might be some well-deserved good news today for airline passengers. United Airlines now testing a program that will put an end to those long lines at the baggage counter. At least they hope so. They're putting special tags on frequent flyers' bags at O'Hare Airport today, which will allow them to just drop off their bags at a special counter and go through security. CNBC's Phil LeBeau is live at O'Hare with more details on the program. So, Phil, would this really be as good as it sounds, that you drop your bag and you walk away from it? You don't have to watch it go through security and then move on?
That's the idea, Monica, and this is one of those special baggage tags. It has an RFID chip in it, and what United has done is that it has worked with 1,000 of its frequent flyers who have signed up for this program. They have all of their information on these baggage tags. The idea being that if you are going someplace, you've already printed out your boarding pass at home, you come in, you drop off your bag, they give you a receipt, that's it. You don't have to wait, you don't have to show your ID, nothing. You go straight through security. The idea being that, on average, people spend 3 to 10 minutes in the baggage line, waiting to go up to the counter, to show their ID, to get everything printed out, to hand over the bag. United believes this new system, with a dedicated line where people will be able to drop off their bag and then go straight through security, that the new system could cut down the amount of time it takes for you to check a bag down to 30 seconds. Hey, if I have to spend less time in the airport, I love it.